Hi everyone, Sandra Joseph here. Today my guest is Lorraine Ash, author, journalist, and spiritual teacher. She is the author of Life Touches Life, and her latest book is called Self and Soul. Lorraine Ash, thank you so much for joining us.
Delighted to talk with you today.
This is a spiritual memoir. Tell us a little bit about your spiritual journey and what brought you to the point of writing this book.
Well, my spiritual journey started, I guess, like many people's, when I was a very young girl. But it certainly kicked into high gear when I was 40 years old with the stillbirth of my daughter and only child, Victoria Helen. And that is the point, actually, at which I start Self and Soul. I had always been, during my life, a seeker of God and a seeker of truth. And the night that my daughter died and I found myself laying in a hospital bed fighting for my own life, I found God. God arrived in the room. And the seeking stopped there. And then I was exploring, and have been exploring from that time, living with God. I see God not as not as an entity that I have to find, not as a destination, but as a living force inside and around me everywhere. And that's made all the difference.
Do you think that painful experience and the loss of your daughter was in some ways a portal, an opening for God to enter?
The tragedy opened a door. It did.
I think so often many of us, when we suffer a tragedy or a loss, we go to the why me place or the God doesn't exist place. What was it for you that instead of sending you down the road of there is no God, which I think is very common for people,
Yes,
made you go to this other place of, you said God entered the room?
I never went to the place of there is no God, but I did go to the place of maybe God wasn't what I thought. Maybe my idea of God, that which I have been seeking, is correct.
You talk in the book a lot about the difference between God and religion. Can you talk to us a little bit about that and how perhaps your belief system shifted from your Catholic upbringing to where you are now?
Well, you know, religion, a lot of people will find God within the confines of religion, within those rules, within those rituals. And I guess I did also when I was a very young girl. I developed a personal relationship with Jesus. But then as I got older, it didn't seem to work for me very well. I'm a person of language, and I talk in the beginning of the book that I did not really relate to the idea of having the prayers written for me. I needed to have a conversation with God that was all mine, and in which I stayed still and listened to answers, and that conversation has become my life.
You write in your first book, Life Touches Life, about the experience of the stillbirth and how that changed you, and you almost lost your own life in the process. What role did that experience play in your spirituality?
Oh, I was knocking on heaven's door there.
Yeah.
I realized it could be over, not even tomorrow, but today. And there's just something about that. You know, I saw all these scenes from my life play through my head, and they were simple scenes. They were walking on the beach or spending time with my husband. I mean, it was not like, they were not big moments. These were not big achievement moments. They were moments in which I was fused in love with something around me, in touch with something around me.
Is that what you mean by God walked into the room? By playing those scenes from your life that were, in essence, eternal moments?
Perhaps, because I did get the sense, really, that I was being shown certain scenes. I wasn't choosing them. I was conscious and just saying to myself, live, live, live. You can make it through. I've got so much to do. I've got so much to say. I've got so much to write. You know, it was interesting because when I was in my 20s, I was writing. I was writing as a journalist, and I had trouble writing personal personal pieces, because I thought, my gosh, what is there to say? And now I look back and I think, wow, we wasted some time there.
The genre, I guess, is called spiritual memoir, but it's interesting to me because having read this book, it's not prescriptive. It is so personal, and yet it's so universal and so applicable to every person who reads it. You get a message, you get takeaways that make you want to talk with God and walk with God in your own way. So what happened as you were promoting Life Touches Life and finding your way from that book into the next book?
I found that there were other people who had suffered something, had been traumatized, and never articulated it. And that's what I discovered when I started to teach Writing to Heal workshops after Life Touches Life. We were going all over the place. We were going to Michigan and Nevada, Maryland, and every place we went, we had the same thing. People wanted to know, how do I articulate this? It seems that Life Touches Life had a big cathartic effect for people because I put words on it. And I think that's what the mystery, in my life, that's what the mystery is about, putting words on these kinds of conversations and these inner landscapes that are hard to do. And that seems to be the legacy of the stillbirth and the way my life as a writer has evolved. I think one of the things that the workshops gave people was permission to even talk about who they are. I think a lot of people, spend a lot of their lives waiting for permission to be who they are and to talk about that. And the only person who can give you permission is yourself.
But let me ask you how you define God.
God is the force within me that animates my life, and which I can direct or heed depending on how I use my mind and my heart. I can use my mind and my heart to ignore that and make decisions that don't cause me to grow around the idea of an internal spark within me.
You certainly have taken a very difficult and painful experience and created so much meaning using your creativity. Do you think that that's an opportunity for all of us?
I think we're built to do that. If we think of God as the creator, I think we're all the little co-creators, because we all walk around with a piece of God within us. And one of the things I was trying to get at Self and Soul is that in our lives all the time, things around us stop. My life as a parent stopped early on. All around us now we see people who have had careers that they have just invested decades into, and the careers have stopped. So the question is, in so many ways, with all that stopping around us, how do we continue? So the question becomes, how do I change, adapt, and how do I reach the very, very deepest currents within me to continue to go, to continue to live. That's how I see God, and that's how I see how we can live with God every day.
Talk to us a little bit about how you define success and what success means to you now as opposed to maybe what it meant when you were younger.
Success now, I talk about this in the Self and Soul as well, in terms of a shamanic journey that I took, in which I found myself speaking to an old Chinese sage in a very, very small house. And he said, "This is the house of your success." And I said, "My God, it's so small. What's up with this success?" And he said, "Well, it's not something big. It's not something grand." And the realization I came to is that it's knowing who you are and then acting from that spot. So you do not succeed and then in the course of success find yourself. You need to find yourself, and then whatever you're doing is successful because it is a manifestation of your unique spirit.
But you're so accessible, so relatable, and yet also this poetry, this deep, profound eternal message comes through your writing that does give us all hope that, oh, I don't have to keep searching and seeking and striving. I think so many of us think of it as this linear path, the spiritual path. Right. And what you're teaching in this beautiful book is that it's already within us.
That's right. And you'll probably most likely find God at one of those stopping points on the way to something else. And those things that seem like they can be taking us off track are the track of success and spirituality that we're discussing here today.
Fantastic. And where can we connect with you? I know you teach workshops all over the country, and you have a lot going on. So what's the best way for us to reach you?
If you go to LorraineAsh.com on the events page, you'll see all that I'm about. Happy to meet you.
LorraineAsh.com.
Yes.
LorraineAsh.com. Thank you so much for being here with us, Lorraine, and thank you, everybody.